So I enjoy these type of questions, especially when they're genuine, because it allows me to highlight just how impossible it is to successfully invade the United States. Countries can try. In fact, a conglomerate of countries across the world could try, and they would fail. There just is no way that countries can invade the United States. And really just North America. We'll just call it what it is because Canada is tied at the hip to the United States. We're extremely close partners militarily. There is no partner more integrated with the United States than Canada. We have very close ties from a mutual defense apparatus because Canada's defense has implications for U.S. defense and vice versa. So across the board, there's just nowhere to land troops anywhere. And the bottom line for China and Russia is they don't have the amphibious landing capability to cross the entire ocean and get to the United States. I mean, you would have to do it in secret, first of all, because the U.S. Navy is incredibly powerful. We have carrier battle groups all over the world. The U.S. Navy, the U.S. detection apparatus for ships crossing the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean is incredibly dense. There's just no other country that knows what's going on around the world more so than the United States, and we share that freely with Canada. So you're not going to be able to land any kind of Russian troops here. And I know you talk about Alaska, and I'll get to that in a moment. You're not going to be able to come into the Gulf of Mexico to land troops. This coast right here is probably the most heavily defended coast in the entire world. You're just not getting in. So rightfully so, you asked, well, what about Canada? Or what about coming through Canada to attack the United States? And it makes sense. You'd think that, hey, I mean, there's not much up there. They can just kind of roll through. Well, that does a disservice, one, to Canadians, but it also does a disservice to what's in Alaska, the U.S. Navy, as well as the geography here. So I know that these patches, I'll start with the geography. I know that these patches look like cute little white patches, but these are some of the biggest frigging mountains in the world. And you're trying to go into the Arctic. Really, the only place to cross would be right here. You're trying to cross into Alaska, arguably in the summer, because in the winter, this would be a nightmare of Arctic tundra until you hit, again, some of the biggest mountains in the world. And the whole way, the entirety of the U.S. military and the Canadian military are going to just be devastating you. Not only that, we would see the buildup. We would see a bunch of stuff coming from Russia, and you said China as well, into this area to try to find a way to move it across rapidly. This takes amphibious landing craft. They don't have enough amphibious landing craft. The Russians and the Chinese combined, you could add in Iran, you could add in North Korea, whatever the Legion of Doom number of countries you want, they just don't have enough landing craft to sustain the constant bombardment they would take from the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Air Force, the Canadian Navy, everything the U.S. has that is in the Pacific Fleet, the NORAD command, all of the air defense assets would be concentrated on wiping everything in this area completely out. And it wouldn't even be close. There's just no way for the Russians, the Chinese, whoever, to cross over into Alaska, to cross over into Canada, to try and take on the United States. So the other question I get pertains to Mexico. What if these units out of Russia and China decide they're going to land in South America, for instance? There's not enough infrastructure in this whole region to move units up through here effectively. First and foremost, again, as I've said before, the U.S. sees everything. We see everything taking place, especially in the Western Hemisphere. The Western Hemisphere is the United States' special baby. No one does anything in the Western Hemisphere with regard to any kind of warfare, international policy, without the U.S. knowing and really being involved, frankly. So what we're looking at is if countries start trying to land in the port infrastructure, it doesn't matter where, of some of this coastline, that just immediately becomes targets. The United States, again, has the ability to project power anywhere in the globe at will. And that certainly means they can project power in their own backyard here in the southern hemisphere in Central America. And they would just start destroying any kind of port infrastructure across this whole line. Any enemy ships coming into this territory would be destroyed on either side. It doesn't matter. The United States just owns the security capability of this whole region. If for some reason countries were able to land forces, again, you have to essentially cross some of the most awful terrain in the world. I mean, you're looking at trying to drive serious amounts of military equipment up through, first and foremost, a rainforest, and then you eventually get to some pretty damn big mountains over here too, as the base of the Rockies start. The whole way you have the most powerful Air Force and the most powerful Navy in the world just raining hell on you the whole way. So again, it's just not going to happen. There's just no way any country in the history or in the world, or any group of countries in the world, would be successful at invading the United States. And I'll just finally say, once you get to the United States, what are you going to do? Not only do you have to face down the most powerful active military in the world, you have to face down the most powerful National Guard system in the world. There are literal police forces in the United States that are bigger than the militaries of some other countries. You have militias, you have the reserves, you have just the general population of the United States is being heavily armed. And now they're being supported by the most wealthy government in the whole world, ensuring that no one continues to fight in their country. And there's just no way. There's no way, shape, or form in any possible reality other than the complete destruction of the entire world through nuclear holocaust that the United States gets invaded successfully. Period. And that also means Canada is uninvadable as well.